So this is called the Transfiguration made by Raphael. Next, look at the picture. What is the title of this artwork and who created this artwork? So this is called David, made by Donatello. Now, let's discuss our main topic for today's lesson. So, it's about the Baroque arts. So the term Baroque was derived from the Portuguese word barroco, which means irregularly shaped pearl or stone. It describes a fairly complex idiom and focuses on painting, sculpture, as well as architecture. After the idealism of Renaissance and the slightly forced nature of mannerism, Baroque art, above all, reflects the tensions of the age, notably the desire of the Catholic Church in Rome to reassert itself in the wake of the Protestant Reformation, which is almost the same with Catholic Reformation art of the period. Although always in conflict with the simple, clear, and geometric concepts of classicism, the Baroque existed in varying degrees of intensity, from a simple animated movement of lines and surfaces to a rich and dynamic wealth. Baroque was a period of artistic styles in exaggerated motion, drama, tension, and grandeur. The style started in Rome, Italy, and spread to most of Europe. The Roman Catholic Church highly encouraged the Baroque style to propagate Christianity, while the aristocracy used Baroque style for architecture and arts to impress visitors, express triumph and power and control. Baroque painting illustrated key elements of Catholic dogma, either directly in biblical works or indirectly in imaginary or symbolic work. The gestures are broader than Mannerist gestures, less ambiguous, less arcane, and mysterious. Baroque sculpture, typically larger than life-size, is marked by a similar sense of dynamic movement, along with an active use of space. Baroque architecture was designed to create spectacle and illusion. Thus, the straight lines of the Renaissance were replaced with flowing curves. Now, let us know some of the famous Baroque artworks and artists. First, let's talk about Michelangelo Merisi, or Amerigo da Caravaggio. So, he was better known as Caravaggio. He was an Italian artist who wanted to deviate from the classical masters of the Renaissance. He was an outcast in his society because of his own actions and the lack of modesty and reverence for religious subjects in his own paintings. Perhaps he started out as a specialist in his paintings of still life, especially of fruits. Studies of single figures followed, but they are clumsier than the fruit, which gives savor of originality and charm. Caravaggio's models at this period were either himself or young persons who have an air of being promising but wicked. Among his famous paintings were Supper at Emmaus, Conversion of St. Paul, as what you can see in this picture, and Entombment of Christ. Next, let's get to know Gian Lorenzo Bernini. So did you know that Bernini was an Italian artist and the first Baroque artist? He practiced architecture, sculpture, painting, stage design, and was also a playwright. Wow! He was also the last in the list of the dazzling universal geniuses. As a prodigy, his first artworks date from his 8th birthday. Among his early works were the Ghost Amalthea with the infant Jupiter and a fawn, Damned Soul, and the Blessed Soul. He made a sculpture of David for Cardinal Borghese, which is strikingly different from Michelangelo's David because it shows the differences between the Renaissance and the Baroque periods. He was the greatest Baroque sculptor and architect as seen in his design of the Piazza San Pietro in front of the Basilica. It is one of his most innovative and successful architectural designs. The famous Ecstasy of Saint Teresa was his greatest achievement and the colonnade of the Piazza of St. Peter's, Rome. So this picture in front of you is called the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa by Bernini. Now let's move on and discuss about the works of Peter Paul Rubens. Rubens was a Flemish Baroque painter. He was well known for his paintings of mythical and figurative subjects, landscapes, portraits, and Counter-Reformation altarpieces. His commissioned works were mostly religious subjects, history paintings of magical creatures, and hunt scenes. His famous works were Samson and Delilah, Landscape with a Tower, Portrait of Helene Forment, and The Three Graces. So right here, you can see the portrait of Helene Forment by Peter Paul Rubens. Okay, so next is Rembrandt. Rembrandt was a brilliant Dutch realist painter and etcher. He was generally considered as one of the greatest painters and printmakers in European art. He followed no particular faith, but was interested in spiritual values and often chooses religious subjects. Rembrandt shares with Rubens the revolution whereby painting came to depict the more personal aspects of the painter, his own home and his family. No artist has painted himself as often as did Rembrandt. His concept of himself continued to deepen in grasp and subtlety, while his technique grew more daring. His well-known work was his self-portrait in old age. Rembrandt had produced over 600 paintings, nearly 400 etchings, and 2,000 drawings. As what you can see here, this painting right here was him, and he made it himself and called it self-portrait in old age. Three, Good job!